Hello and welcome to Matt and Dan's question 7 even, evaluation, now just keep going, evaluation question where we'll be discussing we'll be looking back at our preliminary task and discussing our progression from there onwards. So let's just start off with something quite simple. Camera work and filming. So in our prelim, obviously, we had to demonstrate shot, reverse shot, and 180 degree and match and action stuff. And how do you think we achieved that, Matt?
Well, our prelim task was to film someone entering a room. So, for instance, the match on action aspect, we filmed someone walking up to a door as them then cutting to their hand, reaching for a door handle. Then maybe filmed inside the room and filming them twist the door handle and push the door open. So that obviously we learn how match on action shows continuity throughout a piece of media.
Yeah. 180 degree rule is obviously quite prominent in that one as well, due to the fact it was all, apart from the entering the room, it was the short discussion that was, well, the apparent discussion we had in there. So that was quite a key part, 180 degree rule. And there were only 2 to 3 shots really, as opposed to our final film where there were far more. So yeah, also 180 degree. Oh no, match and action. Yeah, you've mentioned.
Yeah.
And shot, reverse shot. We used a lot of in the. Well, that pairs nicely with a 180 degree rule because it's all to do with the dialogue and the processes. Obviously, we were able to add all this into our final piece. They can't see you nodding. Agree visibly,
yeah.
Voiceably. We obviously included this in our original one, so we had a lot of points, like in the dialogue between Booth and Jack, where we had a shot, reverse shot, and kept the 180 degree rule on the majority of the time, well, all of the time. There were probably around 30 to 40 shots. Maybe,
yeah, it was
possibly up to 50 even.
Yeah, in my end of the part, it was like the whole, practically the middle section within the bar after the.
That was a lot of shots.
Yeah, after the gun.
Yeah.
After like the gun scene, it was like the whole bar section was between the two detectives.
And a lot of the fight. That was where the majority of our match on action occurred, wasn't it?
So yeah, we all learned that from our prelim task.
Yeah. Match on action was key in the fight scene with like landing the hits and stuff and the and whatnot. Also, there was the discussions you were on about with the 2 detectives. Also, the original 2 detectives at the very beginning. And at the end with Scarlett and Jason, their discussion used a lot of
match on action.
Yeah, the standard things you'd use for conversation stuff. Location and set wise, we only had one
location. Our prelim, which was literally just
an office.
It was just like a room,
a dodgy cupboard that we'd put a light in to make it slightly officey.
Compared to our final edit, our final production, where we had an alleyway between. We had a couple of alleyways that we went to go look at.
We had the alleyway, the bar, and the function room / office.
Yeah.
Which obviously we didn't just put a dodgy light in. Not so much for the alley or the bar, but more so for the function room / office. We had to turn that more into an office sort of feel with like the mise en scène and props and stuff all strewn across the table and all that, which is a lot more effort and skill than we used in the prelim task.
For our mise en scène for the prelims, that's because we were in like a storage room cupboard for a school. We had like books in the back.
It didn't fit at all.
No, But obviously, doing that and looking back at the footage, we learned obviously in our final edit would have to look out for things in the background that
Yeah.
will put things off of place and off
which
centre.
we definitely
Which we
takes away from the majority.
yeah. So as we set
Yeah.
up the camera, we then looked around the background to see anything that may have been put off place, and
Yeah.
obviously fixed it, moved out of the way, or put something else in that position which maybe would fit into our narrative.
Yeah. For the lighting as well in the prelim, we had one simple,
One simple
just a little lamp.
obviously pull down lamp,
which
yeah.
we obviously worked well with the so-called plot of whatever our prelim was.
Yeah.
But in our final production, we had some professional lighting gear
Yeah.
provided by Jack, which came really in handy for doing focusing the audience on a certain piece or on a certain part of the film or whatever. Costume-wise, there wasn't really any costumes for the prelim, and if so, they were very simple and just happened.
I think our prelim idea was like an investigative interview.
It was sort of like an interview trying to find out. Very reminiscent of
was
Seven,
like-
wasn't
yeah.
it?
It was like there was like a killer
Yeah, a detective.
and a detective, and they were just talking.
Yeah,
But because I played the killer,
yeah.
I was wearing just my school
Yeah,
uniform. So I just wearing a shirt and some trousers.
Same, yeah.
Whereas if we wouldn't doing that properly.
Well, then, for killer-wise, what does a killer wear,
well,
really?
in jail, you'd wear like
Yeah, I suppose. I see what you mean if they're in
orange
jail.
jumpsuit.
Of course they do.
But then, obviously, compared to our final edit, we went in depth and in detail with our costuming.
Our costumes were actually really key to fleshing out the character, because without the costumes, they could have been anyone, but they really showed how the character was portrayed visually, because that is like probably 50% of the acting wise, isn't it? It's not just the dialogue, it's what they're representing, it defines them, and there was obviously no real character definition in
for our two detectives, we used
prelim.
we had a suit. We had one of our male detective had him in a suit, and
Both
a
were
female
in formal attire.
formal
really.
suity attire. And for our private investigator Jason, we had him in like closest to a suit we wanted him to be. So
To make him look quite scruffy-ish.
yeah,
though,
so we had like a shirt which
down
was
and out.
formal,
Yeah.
but then we had him jeans and a long black coat,
Yeah.
which weren't as formal.
No. Also, Jack not played.
The drunk
man was
character.
just like the half-tied tie and all
Yeah.
that, which just made him even more scruffy. You could really see the social scale between them on the, and obviously we had Ruby as Scarlet in her dress to show off her. Oh dear, this has gone down a dodgy path. This is not how I meant it to sound.
Yeah, we had her in a dress to try
To
and
more sexualise her.
to sexualise her as a nearer to an object, as how we wanted our femme fatale to maybe be.
But whilst keeping her independence.
Yeah,
Which would have been obviously fleshed out a lot more in the final piece, as opposed to just the intro where she's seen as, I don't want to say simple as in though she's thick, as in she's just a simple character.
Yeah.
Whereas her deceitful nature probably would have showed up more later on in the film. Also, prop wise, we had in the prelim we had the handcuffs, which was all we really had.
Yeah.
Unless you want to count the light.
We count the light as we
Yeah.
can count the light as well as we like,
Because
because
we used
it
it,
as a prop. But apart from that, it was just a pair of handcuffs.
We had a lot more prop-wise going on in our final production,
Yeah.
with the weapons and obviously the torches in the beginning
We
scene.
used the lobbies, glasses, and
glasses for like the
alcohol.
Yeah. Character-wise, there wasn't any development whatsoever.
in our prelim.
No.
It was literally just two
There wasn't
people.
any background. There wasn't any context to
The
it.
only
Really, was
little
there?
bit of background story was that the one in handcuffs has
Obviously
killed
has
people,
done something, can kill,
and that's
because
it.
we mentioned it.
But you don't
didn't we?
know. There's no names. There's nothing
No.
else apart from what he's done.
Yeah.
Whereas in our final edit,
There was a lot of backstory fleshed out, wasn't there, with
Yeah.
Jason, and obviously you could tell that the two of them knew each other, Jack and Jason,
Yeah.
and
was a
it was clear that
backstory.
Scarlett knew.
and the backstory with Jason, obviously knowing who our
And
serial
his
killer
lack,
is.
his lack of wife, his loss of his wife or lover, we didn't quite define.
Yeah.
her position. Maybe they went into marriage. That's their decision. Also, they had names, which is
Yeah.
a big one, and naming a character really defines them more.
Yeah.
And is quite a clear indicator
Makes
of
them
what they're
more of a
like.
character.
Yeah, which they didn't have in the preliminary task. A lot more effort went into editing
Our final production
Yeah.
of our prelim.
because the prelim, you edited that, didn't
Yeah.
you, for us? And it was just literally the editing was there only to demonstrate
We
The
did
three main
match on
features,
action, shot of a shot, and
180
180
degree
degree
rule.
rule.
Yeah. Whereas in our final piece, there were a lot of cuts that
There were some
the
titles.
titles of the key and the effects. In
Yeah.
my one, I added rain effects at the
and I,
beginning
just
of it.
I added a grayscale effect
Yeah.
across the whole
I
thing.
added black and white cards for
Yeah.
when the character's name comes up, and the musical. There was no music in the editing, and
for the prelim.
for the prelim. But in the final task, the music really brought the thing to life
Yeah,
more,
we got
didn't it?
noir-esque music
Yeah.
to play along.
It made it a lot more. It gave the world a more realistic
Yeah.
feel.
As well as adding sound effects during a fight scene.
You did that, didn't you?
Yeah, I added some sound effects during the fight scene to really
Voiceovers as well.
yeah, include some like oomph behind some of the punching,
Yeah.
some of the punches to give it a bit more, give it a bit more of a fighty-esque feel to it.
Obviously, we had all the things in our preliminary task in our final production because the match on action was used a lot in the for fights. I like the little sound effect there. The fight scene. For every punch, there'd be like a swing the other way or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Dialogue wise as well, we had an actual script for the prelim, which
Yeah.
obviously meant the dialogue was going to be a million times, maybe not good, but a
Yeah,
million times better than the prelim.
Because our prelim, we just made it up as we went along,
Yeah.
practically, just because
Which it wasn't bad, if I say so
it
myself.
was all right. But we mostly made it up because
Yeah.
we mostly wanted to show we understood the three
The things that we
techniques,
needed to show.
the things we needed to show, as
Yeah.
well as understand those techniques.
Yeah. And the character plots, obviously, the dialogue fleshes out the character more and explains it all. Audience-wise, there wasn't a set audience for
For
our
our
prelim,
No.
apart from the examiners, obviously. Whereas our audience for this one, we've discussed a lot more in our pre-production and obviously post-production.
And then made some questionnaires to
Yeah.
give out to our audience.
in our
to fill out.
research and stuff. Yeah. The plot in general. So the plot was a million times better, obviously, due to the fact we had an actual plot, whereas the rest of it was in our heads.
We sat down and we were
Discussed
throwing
it, yeah.
throwing some typical neo noir ideas into like on a piece of paper. We're just like writing down neo noir ideas and then
throwing them into a pit and setting fire to them and seeing which ones weren't burnt. And then we went with those. No,
Yeah.
not really. We
so we like wrote down like our typical what we typically see in neo noirs, and then as a conclusion we came out with we typically have like femme fatales, we typically have like detectives, some alcoholism, and
so on and so forth.
So we stuck with those ideas, and compared to our prelim,
Yeah.
which we literally just said, all right, we need
Yeah.
to film it just to show these three different camera techniques.
Yeah. Also, we fleshed out the plot of our final task far more than just the intro. We had ideas for the rest of it and all that. Narrative theory as well. That is a pretty key one. We haven't discussed that yet, have
No.
we? So Freytag's pyramid was the one we said probably would apply well to our production due to the fact it's used commonly and it's used quite commonly and in most productions, and it's quite a simple one to implement. So Matt, do you want to explain the first part that we could say we used?
Well, Freytag's pyramid starts
Yeah.
off with exposition, which is like just a slight build up in story, and then there's a
It's the point in which the characters are sort of explained, aren't they?
So for our one, it was the two detectives walking along until they started to have a little discussion about something nearby. Like there's a lead that they're
Yeah,
following,
yeah.
which then starts to build up to the rising action. And then the rising action obviously leads up to a major climax, and our major climax was the dead body that we had on the floor.
That could be seen as the inciting incident,
Yeah.
which is a
It could have been seen as the inciting.
because that's the bit that starts off the plot, really, isn't it? Like it starts off with the exposition officer, as you said, the inciting incident, the rising action climax, falling action resolution, and obviously the ending of it. But inciting incident would have been the finding of the body, wouldn't it? Because that starts the action off, and then.
Yeah.
But some more exposition occurred after the inciting incident, where the characters of Scarlett and Booth were fleshed out more and explained, and really appeared as well. Also, the rise in action would have taken place as a second inciting incident potentially could be when Scarlett tells Jason how she knows of the serpent's
the serpent's back
re-emergence. So
back in the
really,
mix again.
we never really made our way to the rising action, where we'd be trying to find leads and whatnot, or to the climax. But we sort of had those in our head, really. And what else is there? I think that might be about it. Let me have a goosey. What have you learned in the progression from it to the full product? I'd say we've definitely progressed a lot and learned a lot more techniques for editing, the camera work, research. Planning wise, we planned would be a big difference to the prelim, because we planned it all around, and schedule probably would have come under planning and stuff. We didn't necessarily emulate any other scenes from other films, but we felt that you could find like bits of it, like the fight scene from like neo-noirs like The Dark Knight and stuff, and the fact that the killer could be, well, that's the majority of them really, isn't it?
Like quite a lot of film noir, neo-noir movies have like a mysterious killer.
Yeah.
But within our one, obviously the killer's known by the characters, but not
by the audience, which the opposite of dramatic irony, really, isn't it? Yeah. Equipment we've discussed, haven't we?
Yeah.
Audience as well, and schedule, storyboarding. We did that, so we learnt that's probably something we could do with. I'd say that pretty much wraps it up, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.